Welcome to the Dr. Stacy Show, where we're talking about all things faith, love, and wellness as it relates to raising our kids. I'm your host, Dr. Stacy, and today I'm super excited to have with us John Prather. John is the host of the Roundtable podcast, but he's also an entrepreneur that has taken an interesting route to getting into business. He was a professional athlete who turned to an entrepreneur and also an engineer. And I'm super excited, John, today because already our conversation is making me super excited to talk to our families. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, John, one of the things we were talking about in our little pre-show is this journey that you took from being a professional athlete to then now going into entrepreneurship. Talk to us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up, my whole life, I always wanted to be a professional athlete, pro football player. My dad played pro sports. I was just naturally inclined to do that. So throughout Little League, high school, and college was on that path. Ended up achieving that goal right after college, was able to play a year of pro football up in Canada and in indoor football. But kind of like we were talking about before the show, the pivot from football to the real world for a lot of people is tough, but I feel like for me entrepreneurship was that perfect bridge, because right towards the end of my football career, right after I graduated college, I got exposed to entrepreneurship through network marketing, and that pivot allowed me to maintain the same discipline and motivation that I applied to sports, working out, delayed gratification, all those principles, and put it into a new arena. And I'm super thankful for it. Have, obviously been able to continue on and push through, but I see a lot of athletes struggle with that athlete to civilian sort of a switch, because they're so used to being all in, focused on a certain task. So I feel like for me, entrepreneurship was a perfect bridge at the right time, to make that transition.
And parents, I'm really excited about this topic and John talking about it because I think as parents, we prepare our kids for college and even, like you said, even athletes, right? I work with kids that are 4 years old and doing training, like, they're adult athletes already. But we don't prepare them for when the sport's over or if the kids don't want to go to college, right? Entrepreneurship has been an option forever. People always said, you know what, if I don't want to do this, I'm going to go into business. Talk to us a little bit about what, even with network marketing, I know people kind of were like, what? We kind of know, but we don't know. Talk to us a little bit about network marketing, where you found it to be useful in your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I totally agree. Just like you said, with the idea of potentially going to school, how to transition out of certain things, and taking that entrepreneurship route, because it's like you said, it's been around literally forever. So utilizing that, and I feel like for me personally, especially in today's day and age, network marketing has been. I know there's a lot of pros and cons. People have different opinions about it, but I feel like for me, at least, the way that I got exposed to it and have continued to build it has been the perfect training ground for all forms of entrepreneurship. Specifically because I've sat down with thousands of people over the years of being in business, and the common thread that I see is that people, they want some extra income, but they want it to be flexible, and they want it to be able to be kind of somewhat remote or hybrid, so that they have a little bit of flexibility, and it has the scalability factor. So with most people, again, network marketing specifically, the benefits of it I've seen is it's a low cost startup. So it doesn't require a huge overhead like maybe a traditional business if you're opening up a pizza store or a clothing brand. It also gives you that flexibility where you don't necessarily have to quit your job right away. You can be, if you're a student, you can do it as a student. If you're new into your career, or you're a parent, just like, you and me, you can balance it outside of what you're doing full time. And the third thing, which I think is the biggest benefit, is that it has like a proven track record. Again, with most businesses, if you start it from scratch, you have to kind of have a proof of concept. Like, can you even make your first sale? Is your product even viable? Does it work? And some people, if they have really great ideas, that's the route they should go for sure. But I feel like for most, if they're just looking for some benefits but don't necessarily have all the answers, network marketing can be a perfect training ground, because you have a proven system. Products are sold. The products are good because obviously the company is viable, it's running. And you have people who are your coaches and mentors who can basically teach you what they're already doing, rather than, again, if you're starting from scratch, you have to figure out how to make your first client. You have to figure out how to get your product out there and get seen, which for some can be difficult. Not all, but for some. So for me, I found it as a really great training ground to start building up those skills of communicating with people, pitching my ideas, handling rejections. And I've been able to use it, build it successfully, but also pivot into other arenas where I can use those same skill sets in different manners as well. So it's a great training ground, I feel like, for the average person. If they don't know what they want to do in entrepreneurship, they can definitely leverage network marketing or different types of companies that offer those services.
I love that you're talking skills too, because when I work with parents, that's the thing that we're talking about, right? We're preparing our college kids, we're preparing our high school kids with skills. And here is again another route to adulthood, because many kids I talk to say they're not wanting to do 4 years of college. They want to go out there and get into business. Of course, they all want to be YouTubers these days, but
Yeah, true.
but maybe network marketing can help fund them while they're being on their YouTube journey.
Exactly.
But here's what's interesting. You also work with AI. And I know a lot of people, again, this is a popular thing when we're talking about how do we use AI. You said you even had AI going on in the background just now, which is kind of cool. How do you use AI in what you do?
Yeah, yeah. And funny, just like you said, I literally have it running right now, doing some tasks in my business while we're on the call. And I think just like you said, so AI, I mean, it's a total game changer. And to be honest, I've just really started to get into it in the past year or two. But I've seen, and like we were talking about a little bit before the show, the places where I feel like AI is super effective is starting to take over some of those mundane tasks that you have, whether as an entrepreneur or even if you're not a business owner yet. You're a parent, you're balancing and juggling a lot of things. Look at those tasks that you don't like to do and see if you can start to delegate it to certain AI. So for example, I'll give one for a business example and then one for like a parent example. So for a business example, perfect example is what's happening right now on my computer as we're on the call is in network marketing. One of the biggest things is you're looking to connect with people, potentially find potential business owners and things like that. So for me, one of the things I realized is, okay, well, if I can have AI go into my social medias, find people that are engaging with my content, whether they're on LinkedIn, maybe they're a certain type of a profile, I can have AI go through and run through and send out messages based on things that I already have, scripts or messages that I've already sent, and have those conversations without me having to be there. Because again, even though, again, and not saying that social media messaging is too tedious, because you can literally do it whenever, but sometimes, again, I have a 11-month-old daughter and a wife, like, things happen, you get busy. If I can have that in the background running when I don't have to do it, it's super beneficial. So that's an easy way as a business owner. Okay, lead generation is tough. I can have it run and find people that are interested, and at least start the conversation. Maybe it's not going to do the whole thing again, because AI isn't perfect. You do want to add some personal touches to it. But that's one aspect. One that I think all people can definitely utilize, like you mentioned, as parents or people, and this is one for sure, is like, for me, is like a monthly budget. So I like to run through after every month and kind of see, okay, what category, put the orders and stuff in certain categories. And like literally every month I dread it. It's like I have it as a notification. I'm just like, I push it off literally. Like I think last month I just pushed it off and just did 2 months in a row because I was like, oh, I just don't want to do this because it just is
Yeah.
tedious and it takes 30-45 minutes. But one of the things I'm going to have right after we hop off is I'm just going to say, okay, here's the spreadsheet that I put my tasks in. Here's the bank accounts that's connected to through this app. Hey, AI, can you scan through, fill out this spreadsheet so that way I don't have to do it, and then all the business expenses and stuff come out of it. And I have to do it, but it's like, so that's another application where maybe as a parent you're like, I hate doing my budget, or I
My
don't like
grocery list, my
figuring
anything,
things
right?
out, grocery list, things like that, where you can just say, hey, go
Yeah.
through, here's the last few things that we've ordered, boom, boom, boom. So it's really interesting. Again, for most people, they might have only played around with maybe Chat GPT, which is beneficial, but again, most people I think use it like a Google. They just ask it kind of basic questions. But
Yeah.
I would highly recommend, for those that are interested in seeing how it can start to work, because again, it's really just in the past few months, honestly, that it's started to be able to take on tasks for you. I'd
Yeah.
recommend people looking to Claude Cowork,
Mhm.
Claude AI. That
Yeah.
is something where, like I said, I think you can use it with the free subscription. I have the $20 a month one, but I think even the free one, just to kind of play around with it, you can literally add it to your Chrome browser, and it can literally look at your screen and start doing tasks for you, like without you touching it. Like the past couple of days, I was actually showing my wife, I was like, look, it's like doing stuff and I'm not touching the mouse. And she was like, isn't that what it's supposed to do? And like, we were laughing about it. But yeah, it's very powerful. And I mean, it's just getting better and better, as the months go on. So I'd highly recommend people just play around with it. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Well, and I love, even like you're saying, we can find everyday tasks. I've been working with clients, even for example, with ADHD, where organization is tough for them, and they've been
Mm.
using AI
Oh my
to do
goodness.
the
Yeah.
organization. It's like the executive functioning tool piece for them to be able to say, okay, this is easier, this helps out. But you, as a business owner, too, you help people to use AI in what you do
Yeah.
as a business owner.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So leveraging some of those tools, specifically when it comes to my business coaching business,
Mhm.
where I'm helping small and medium level entrepreneurs, I help them start to create cash flow from their content. So how can they generate more leads, generate more clients, but also potentially how can they monetize their content? So for most people, like again, I can relate to this so much because I went on this journey myself, is
Yeah.
wanting to create content, wanting to get my name out there, but running into the same pitfalls that most people fall into, which is okay, now, once I, like we were just talking about this, once I create the content, now I got to edit it. Oh my goodness.
Right.
It's like, that's a whole thing. Like, I don't even want to create the content just because I know I'm going to have to edit it and get it posted. So learning how to use some of the clips, like I know we met through my podcast, the
Yes.
Roundtable.
Mhm.
And one of the ways that I utilize AI in that sense is there's a application called Opus Clips online.
Mhm.
And that's just for short form. So not for like a long form video, but like you can put in a whole like podcast like this, send it into there, and it'll clip up the video for you. It'll give you, like title names and clip it up, add captions and stuff. So again, little things like that that can just
Mhm.
take the burden off. As well as again, I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna see, and I'm pretty sure Claude can do this. Is
Yeah.
putting in long form videos and saying, hey Claude, can you go in, sign into like, because this is one of the things that it can do, sign into my whatever account, Canva, CapCut, whatever editing software, go into it, upload this video, make the edits as needed. Again, I'm sure the first few times it's not going to be perfect,
Mhm.
but can you go in and work it in a way where eventually it can literally, I can give it the raw video and it'll edit it, clip it up, and give me the edited, polished version at the end. So those are some of the things I'm looking to do with it, and I've started to help clients work on is just how to get that going. Because again, for me, the biggest friction is from doing the content to actually getting it posted so that people can see you. Because once you post it, people will start seeing you, your name
Right.
gets out there, you're going to find more clients, people are going to want to work with you. But it's that initial, can I post and can I stay consistent with it? Where again, I struggled with, and I know a lot of people do. So seeing how can I delegate some of those tasks that I don't like doing
Mhm.
to AI specifically, but even if you need a VA or an actual person to do it, you can also have that as well.
Yeah, and even when you say VA, right? It's wonderful that the virtual world that kids, when we say, oh, the kids need to go off the computers, and now there's so many jobs within the computer space that it's like,
Yeah,
no, Mom, Dad,
exactly.
let them stay on the computer. like that's going to be a job one
Absolutely.
day. Now YouTube content creation is a job, right? People are doing this for
Exactly.
a living, which is awesome. But talk to us a little bit about the pitfalls of being an entrepreneur, because I know, I always tell parents we want the best for our kids, we want the best for their future, and we don't always talk about the dark side of being an entrepreneur either.
Hmm.
What are some of those pitfalls that maybe you've experienced and grown through?
Yeah, I would definitely say the biggest pitfalls I've seen personally have been probably, and it kind of aligns with this generation, is definitely unrealistic expectations going in. So they see
Mhm.
a lot of stuff on social media and they're like, oh, I'm going to make $100,000 a month, by the first year, and I'm going to be super wealthy. And again, not to say that that's not possible because it definitely
Mhm.
is, but going in with you want to be optimistic, but you also want to have some realistic expectations of what I need to do, because I think paired with the unrealistic expectations, it causes people to quit sooner than they need to. Where if
Mhm.
they had pushed through some of the challenges, they would be very, very successful. But because they thought success was going to come so quickly, they said, you know what, this isn't worth it. Let me go jump to the next shiny object. So they
Mhm.
they see that it might be a viable option, but it's not working as fast as they would like it to. So I'd say one of the biggest ones is definitely realistic expectations. And that kind of comes, I mean, it's kind of difficult. I mean, because there is so much social media out there, people with Lamborghinis posting and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit tough, but I think again, having a little bit of a realistic expectation, as well as just being open-minded to new opportunities, kind of like you mentioned, especially with whether it be network marketing or any type of a business, or if you're a young, don't want to go to college, you want to start something of your own. being flexible, going into something with kind of a rigid, like this is the only thing I'm going to do. Again, especially if you don't have an expert level person guiding you, the plan that you come in with is likely not going to be the plan. I think, we obviously both, share faith. It's kind of like the saying is like, you tell God your plan and he laughs
Yeah,
because,
right.
it's not
He's
going to go
got
that
you.
way. It's
Right.
kind of like that where,
Yeah,
you do have to have
absolutely.
somewhat of a bulldog mentality. I'm going to go after this and
Mhm.
be successful. And kind of like we said, don't be unrealistic, push through the
Mhm.
challenges, but also you got to have some flexibility with that, mindset because hey, maybe I start my YouTube brand and it's not making me the money I need to. Okay, maybe I need to start a network marketing business, or hey, maybe I do need to pick up a part-time job, just to pay some bills while I'm building my business and being willing to ebb and flow. I think one of my mentors taught me, you when you're on your path towards your dream, you want to be rigid with the vision, but flexible with the, kind of application. So it's
Mhm.
like you want to go towards your dream. Don't give up on it. Don't be the type of person that quits too soon, but you want to be flexible. You might think you're going to take this route to go there, but you might have to make a right, a left, a detour here, detour there. You still end up at the same destination, but it's not going to be a straight line. And I think most people think it's going to be a straight line, start to finish, which,
Mhm.
obviously, as we know, that's not the case
Not
in
it.
in
That's not
business
it.
or in life. You're going to go through a lot.
Well, and even for the parent, and sometimes parents have unrealistic expectations, right? When their kid says,
True.
"Hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to go do this," and the parents are expecting, the Lamborghini and the $100,000 right away. And I'm
Mhm,
just like, well, no, no, it takes time to build and things like that. Which is,
mhm,
and I love that you said that flexibility piece, right? Like that process, because even the idea of going out and quitting your day job because you want to go do this startup. And it's like, well, no, you might have to keep your day job a little bit longer and to
mhm.
be able to
Absolutely.
stay in that space a little bit longer. And when you think about, did you like growing up, did you talk about business and entrepreneurship? Was this something that you saw yourself doing one day?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Not at all. My parents, both of them, they've worked in. I remember I was just talking about this with somebody. I never actually thought about this, but until
Mhm.
recently, is that because my mom just retired, but both of my parents, we lived in the same house my whole life growing up. They still live in that house today. They both worked the same job. I think my mom, she worked as a nurse. She worked as a shock trauma nurse, and then she became like an OR nurse. But basically, my whole life, she worked at the same job her whole life. And my dad still works at the same company, I think, since I was born or early on. So it's like they never, and again, it just worked for them. I mean, they had a
Mhm.
good living, we had a great life, so they just never really looked for other opportunities like that. So for me, it never even crossed my mind. That's why I feel like once I got to college, got exposed to new things, that was a big eye opener. And then for me, like I said, network marketing was so eye opening because I was like, oh, wow, it's like something I can still keep my job, which is amazing. I can, look for other opportunities. And I'm thankful that I had that growing up with my family because it kind of taught me a little bit of stability, sticking to things. I
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily swayed like, in other ways, but honestly, like, I'd never thought of entrepreneurship growing up, never even crossed my mind. I always knew people made a lot of money, but I was like, I just don't know how they're doing it, or they were born wealthy. But I realized as I started to get educated that I can multiple
Mhm.
streams of income is positive. I can still work my full time job and do other things. But yeah, I never saw that growing up actually.
And it's interesting. I love how you just said multiple streams of income. We didn't say 5 and 6 jobs, right? Like, and that's the difference too, because we're used to, again, some communities we're just used to people having 2 and 3 jobs, but we're not used to the
True.
multiple streams of income, which is what we're really
Mhm.
talking about, that big difference here with entrepreneurship. And to be fair, even in a lot of families, we don't talk about the income. We see, right, our parents going to a job, and we
Mhm.
know that, but we don't know all the other sides of it, which I talk about financial wellness is key, and that we do
Yeah.
have to start early. So when you
True.
think about that, because again, you just said your baby girl is little, what would you do
Mhm.
differently though as an entrepreneur as you're raising your daughter?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something I've thought about a lot with my wife. Is that a couple of things? One is kind of again sticking to it, continuing to build businesses, go to seminars, do different things. And one of the things we want to actively do is we want to engage her and our future children in the business so that they just have exposure to it, again, whether they be entrepreneurs or not, totally up to them, but just give them that idea of what is possible, what can they do, as well as teaching them some of the principles that we've learned from it. Because even thinking back again, even though my parents didn't necessarily do anything entrepreneurial, they did instill a lot of the same principles of, discipline, work hard, go the extra mile. So those are a lot of the things, that I know we can do that through entrepreneurship, as well as one thing looking back again at my childhood that we didn't necessarily have, but I know we can do with our daughter is exposing her to certain groups of people. So like for me, again, my parents, we had our family, few family friends, didn't really much outside of that. We didn't connect with many more people just because they were just more to themselves. But for myself, being an entrepreneur where I meet literally thousands of new people every single year, having access to mentors, people like I meet on my podcast, like yourself,
Mhm.
these are people that I can introduce as, again, she's only one right now, so not yet, but like, when she's, 10, 11, 12, as she gets older, introducing her to different people where it's like, hey, maybe she has an interest in working with children. So I can say, hey, I had somebody on my podcast. Hey, I want you to connect with her. So it's like, then you can make those introductions and get her to think about these things a little bit earlier, and expose her to things. So I think that's one big thing kind of on the same topic of children as they grow up and want to try these different things. Sometimes they're just not exposed to a lot, or maybe, like you said, maybe their parent wants them to go to college. They say, hey, I see these other ways being a YouTuber and stuff like that, but where some of the friction might be is again, as and we've all been there as a teenagers, we think we're right, we know everything, but it's like they don't have that discernment of like, oh, I know somebody in the industry, they can give me real
Mhm.
knowledge, again, because some of the stuff you see on YouTube is just like it's only the glitz and the glam. It's like it's all
Yeah.
the positives of it, and as a young kid, you don't know how to discern, okay, there's stuff they're not telling me, or there's certain aspects that are going to be challenging. They just see, oh, I can make all this money, but if you're a parent who kind of raises your kid in that way where you're like, okay, you want to do this, I'm not going to put it down, but hey, I know a few people in this industry, let me introduce you to them, have a conversation, and then you can have that person tell you, hey, yeah, this is possible, you can make a lot of money, but you do
Right.
have to understand, kind of like that, going in with unrealistic expectations. Hey, you also should understand, hey, the first 3 to 5 years I didn't make much money from this, or I had to go through a little bit, that maybe they can be their mentor and expedite that process a little bit, but they can kind of give them a little bit of guidance. Because again, I'm sure you've been through this like me, is when I was that teenager, it's like, even if my parents told me something, sometimes I just needed somebody else to say it.
Yep.
So that's a big thing, like I said, that I think I'm going to do with my daughter for sure. That, is just exposing her to new people and having them share some of the life
Mhm.
lessons rather than me trying to like, you know,
Say
beat a dead bush, I guess is a good way. Cause I feel like that was kind of my parents a little bit, where again, glad they did it because it ended up working out, and I listened to a lot of it. But had I had maybe some other people who had some different experiences,
Mhm.
I might have not gone through so many, trials and tribulations, just because it's like, oh, I don't know. I just, somebody other than my parents said it. So now I can
Yeah.
listen, I think
Oh,
that's what
it's
happened.
funny. That's what I tell parents all the time when they bring their kids to me. I'm like, I know you said these things a zillion times. They just listen because it's me.
Exactly.
And it's not you,
Exactly.
right? So John, as we wrap up here, what would be your like final tip or advice to parents, to someone thinking about entrepreneurship? What would be kind of your tip to them?
Yeah. I guess my one tip would be, one is start somewhere. I think one thing I was going to mention on one of the things you had just said in one of your last responses or questions was, about the potential of making money. Like we said, maybe $100,000 a month or things like that. Or you had mentioned multiple jobs versus multiple streams of income. That's what you had said. And one of the things that kind of came to my mind that I think would be a great tip to leave with is putting yourself in a position where there is a unlimited upside, because just like you said, there is a way to potentially, like you said, multiple jobs, you can add a few different jobs. Like, yeah, it's structured, it's linear, I know I'm going to make X amount of more dollars per month. If I start a business, there's no guarantee, and oftentimes I might lose money in the first couple of years. But it's
Right.
it's that mindset where it's, let me put myself in a situation where, again, as long as it's an educated decision, you're not doing anything radical, there's a potential for an extremely high upside that if I'm not doing something now, I don't have the capabilities of. Like, for example, again, if I don't start a business, making more than, $100,000, $200,000 a year is probably, again, unless you're a really niche employee, you're probably not going
Mhm.
to make much more than that in your career. Even for some, that's also like potentially not even reachable. But as a business owner from any background, depending on what you start, you can easily start to create some forms of income that, if you become an expert in your field, you can scale relatively quickly, and it's all dependent on you. It's not a job in the sense of you're beholden to a boss to give you a promotion. So that would be my one tip would be put yourself in a situation where there is that high potential upside. So that again, especially if you're a parent, you can show your kids that, hey, things are possible. Even if you don't ever reach those goals, just them seeing you try and go after certain
Mhm.
things, it'll leave a mark on them, which they'll likely take. Again, you see a lot of entrepreneurs nowadays. I remember seeing one, I think, from Magic Johnson and Pitbull and things like that, where they talk about that their parents, maybe they didn't have the success that they had, but they saw them trying things that it made them want to do stuff later on. So maybe that next generation takes the baton and runs with it. So that would be my big tip for sure, is to put yourself in a situation where you have the opportunity to grow. Whether it be, again, if you don't know where to start, like I said, network marketing would be a fantastic opportunity because it's a very controlled environment. You can learn. It's not a whole lot of money investment. But if you have a great idea, if you have, certain, hey, I'd love to be a cook, I'd love to do different things like that, go out there and try it. Obviously don't jeopardize your current source of income or anything like that right away. But there's definitely ways, especially with social media. Hey, just put a camera on, start filming yourself doing stuff. Doors might open that you never thought would open.
Oh, I love it. All right. So, John, before you go, I always have my guests participate in our joke of the show, our Laffy Taffy joke. Okay.
Okay.
So, Proverbs 17:22 says, "A joyful heart is good medicine." So, we're going to see if we can get a good laugh here.
Yeah.
Where does a penguin keep their money? Where does a penguin keep their money?
I'm thinking a piggy bank, but that I don't think that that's right, just because they're both animals. I don't know. What's the?
You were close. A snowbank.
Snow.
It's super cute.
I was thinking some sort of bank.
Hey, you were close, right? You were close to piggy bank. All right. So, how can our guest, though, John, get in touch with you? What's your socials? What do you have going on? How can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend for those that are looking to potentially utilize AI or want to kind of start their own business, they don't know where to start. I can definitely share with you my link to my plugin profit guide. It shows you, I think it's a 5 or 6 page PDF, which shows you how you can start your own business utilizing AI from scratch, part-time, remote from home. So you can feel free, you just put your email in, it'll shoot you over the document. If you just want to connect with me on all social media platforms, John Prather _1. Or you can go to my website, johnprather1, the number one, .com. So those are the places that you can connect with me, and be happy to talk with you, have conversations, sit down, maybe explore some avenues we can make money together, or I can connect you to the right people if you have some ideas.
Oh, I love it. All right, folks, before we go, it's our Love Our Babies Well segment. And today we've talked a little bit about the importance of financial wellness. And legacy, if we look back at any of the big names, always started with entrepreneurship. And parents, we have to be in a place where we're not afraid to have these kind of conversations with our kids and open them up to new opportunities. Who knows, that YouTube video may go viral or that Christmas card they make may sell them online and be able to make money. But the idea is that we're supporting creativity, we're supporting our children, and we're also teaching them skills and tools, like John said earlier, giving them key skills that they can use in all areas of their life, even as they grow financial wellness. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in today to the Dr. Stacy Show. Until next time, keep the faith, love the babies, and pursue wellness.